Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we are currently working on implementing a forest. And we have our forest here, but we need to modify our texture, our palette texture. So let's go ahead and go into here, show in Explorer, and in the Explorer I'm just going to... Actually, I don't have it open. So I'm going to pull up GIMP then, and it might take a little bit, but there it is. And let's go ahead and open up the palette and zoom way in on this. So we currently have ourselves our 3 colors here. We're going to add a couple more colors to this. So let's first things first, get ourselves a nice deep brown color for our trunk. Maybe a bit more green in this. Kind of like that. And I'm going to place this with a pixel size of 1 and an actual pixel right there. Ooh, I don't like that. Needs to be darker. That's a little better. Okay, and now let's grab ourselves a nice leafy green. Something along the lines of this, maybe a smidge more blue because these are kind of pine trees. So maybe head up a bit more towards the blue area. Kind of like that. That should be fine. And I'm going to just go ahead and export that, overwrite palette.png. There we go. And then back in Blender, I'm going to select this here, Control L to select linked vertices. And then I'm going to unwrap that and go to UV Image Editor, pull up palette.png, which of course we don't have the new version of in Blender here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this again. There we go, and now we have it, and I'm going to scale this on down, and it will go into the trunk area. And we can go ahead and go to Textured. And then same thing here. UV Unwrap. UV Image Editor. This is going to be on palette.png. Oh my, it put everything really tiny right there, but that's okay. We can do that. Excellent. Okay, so this is what we've got going on for our forest, and that's looking okay. I would still like to have this force spread them out a little bit more. So maybe hypothetically, if we did a hexagonal grid and turned down the resolution a little bit. Something kind of like that. And now you can see we've got these floating trees. So let's go ahead and turn the random down. Let's just go to jittered. That clusters them together so much, even with the even distribution. I have to wonder why exactly. That's probably why. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete most of these vertices. Like so. And actually I just want vertex select. We'll just leave the original 6 vertices. Delete those. And then put up a face, like so. And then we are going to go from the faces, even distribution, jittered, particles per face. We'll leave that at automatic probably. And then we can turn the jittering down. That's actually a decent distribution there. Decent-ish, I guess. Some of them are close together, some of them are far apart, but I mean, that's kind of the way nature works. So maybe if we increase our number... I mean, if we increase our number of trees to like 300, it gets ridiculous. But if we're around 25 to 50... I think this is pretty decent. And realistically, I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing any major issues. I mean, we've got some trees clipping together, but I think that's probably okay. We could do it on a hexagonal grid, but they're maybe too even. I think they're too even. Invert grid. That's exciting. That's very exciting. Yeah, I think we're better off having it be jittered and just or just random and have them clustered together somewhat. But let's go ahead and generate a few additional seeds. Let's go through here and find one we like. That was interesting. And of course we can easily generate multiples of these. That one's quite the clusters. I'm looking for one that's a little bit more evenly distributed than some of these. That one's not awful. I don't hate that one, actually. What if we bump that down to 30? Okay, I hate that. What if we have it at 64? I think I can live with that. Maybe. Maybe I can live with that. So we can convert this over then, but first I'm going to save this as forest generator. So I'm going to save that as forest generator because we can easily generate additional forest tiles with this. But now I'm going to convert this and file, save as just regular forest. And now we can delete this underneath it. We can also delete this guy. And we've got ourselves a forest tile. Excellent. So let's go ahead and import those on in. Grab ourselves our mesh. We're going to need to make a prefab here. So we've got our forest right there. And obviously, this is a little bit on the big side for what we're going for. So we want to be at the same prefab scale as this is, realistically. So copy this component. And then the forest actually has all of these inside of it. So let's go ahead and paste component values. There we go. Now that actually changed their positions. So let's go ahead and in Blender here, apply all of their locations. Cannot apply to a multi-user. Oh. That's unfortunate. Okay, I guess we're not going to do that. I guess we're going to only put in the scales here. Well, even then, we can't do that. Let's instead combine all of these together into a single object. So I'm going to select all of these and Control J, which doesn't do anything. That's exciting. Why aren't these joining together? There we go. Okay. And then let's set our origin to be 0, 0, 0. Object transform. There we go. Geometry, or origin to 3D cursor. There we go. Okay. Now we've got a single mesh. Let's go ahead and go in and make sure that we've removed all of our doubles. And we have indeed. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this and re-import it. Forest to right here. And now let's create an empty, and we will call this... I mean, this technically isn't a building, but we're calling it one. So building forest. And we'll stick this on in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste the component values there. So now the forest is correctly rotated, mostly, because we need this to be at 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. And now you can see the forest is exactly correct in its rotation. It isn't exactly correct in its normals in some cases. No, I think it is. The camera's just inside of them. I think we're fine. Okay, so the next thing I'm looking at here is I'm looking at the material here. Let's go ahead and have this be the road material. There we go. And let's also go ahead in Blender here. Let's create ourselves our second UV map. So this is our UV map normals. And with that selected, just do a cube projection. Excellent. So we've got our color UV map and our normals UV map. And now we can tweak our color to our heart's content. Like, for example, I think that this is coming out way too light, so I'm going to just slide this value down to be about here. And let's export that on out with Control E. And it's exported. Okay. So, let me just refresh this, make sure that that actually exported. In that case, I still want this substantially darker, which is interesting. Is this exporting to the wrong location? Export as. It is certainly exporting to the correct location. Okay. Well, I guess we just need to make it a little darker then. Because I definitely want this darker. I also want to grab this color and turn down its value a bit. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Grab this color and turn down its value a bit. And then place it right here. Export that on out. And yeah, that's better. I like that coloration much, much, much better. So let's go ahead and make this into a prefab then. We will make this into... I'm going to go ahead and create a folder here for roads. And put the roads into their own folder, since we're pretty much done with them. And now create another folder. This one will be rural. And then another folder here, forest. And then we will save this as building forest. And I'm actually going to add in variant 1, in case we decide to add in more variants later on. Okay, so we've got that prefab at long last. So now we can go into our hex manager here, our sub-hex manager, technically, and we can get ourselves our building prefabs. I'm going to change this over to road prefabs, and then this here can go to header urban, or rather header rural prefabs. And then let's do... Do I want to do another header, or do I just list it all here? I think it's fine to list it all here. So public game object, and this is going to be the forest. There we go. And then also public game object clearing. Now, the clearing is actually not going to have a mesh. It's probably just going to end up coloring the sub-hex, because we don't do that at all right now. Realistically, the sub-hex, we probably want to color based on the biome automatically, and then we can override it with the buildings if we want the building to have a different color. So let's go ahead and say, if we are commercial, manager dot selected subhex I'm just thinking here, we're not actually in our subhexes here. So we're going to have to iterate through again. So we're going to need to do this for sure. For int I equals 0, I is less than subhexes.count I++. So now we have our subhexes I again that we used heavily in generating roads. So we have that. And then we want to say manager, or rather we want to say subhexes I dot, can we set overlay color? Yes, we can. And we want to set this probably to manager dot commercial color. Or where did we actually... Manager is our sub-hex manager. No, our hex manager. Manager is our hex manager. Except it isn't. Wait, I'm confused. Hex manager, sub-hex manager dot manager. Okay, yes, it is our hex manager. So in our hex manager, where do we define our colors? I think we defined them here. Water, urban, rural are here. And then in our subhex manager, I think we defined our... Where's our subhex manager? I don't think it's open. In our subhex manager, I think that's where we defined our... Oh, it's in subhexes. Okay. So we actually have access to it right here. Excellent. So, when we are doing our subhex manager here, we want to set overlay color to commercial color. Because we have that. Excellent. So for right now, we're just going to do that. And this is going to be industrial color. And this is going to be residential color. And this is going to be farmland color. This is going to be forest color. And this is going to be town color. Okay, so now we should have our subhexes should be colored the color of their biome hex, which we don't necessarily want to do. We want to have maybe some randomization to it. Oh, hello. We've got a null reference exception. Manager.selected_subhex.biome. Huh. Well, we can very simply just say if manager.selected_subhex, but the question is, shouldn't we have a selected subhex if we're generating buildings? Let's take a quick look here. So, when is generate buildings called? If we click on the subhex, on mouse over, if we right click, we set active false. If we left click and it's not water, then generate buildings is called before we set the selected subhex. Let's set the selected subhex right at the very beginning. Okay, I do want to make sure that that forest hex is gone, and indeed it is. So let's just head on in and see how this goes. Yeah, that's more like it. Now, of course, it does bear noting that it's kind of hard to see the hexes at some points because of anti-aliasing. And I think we do want to add in a small random amount. So let's go ahead and create ourselves in the subhex manager right down here. We're generating our non-road buildings. So let's say this is a color 32, correct? Yes. Color 32 random add equals new color 32. And color 32 is in bytes. So, how can we output a random byte? I think I need to look that one up. Let's see. Unity, output random byte. How can we output a byte? Random byte to console, byte random.range. Okay, that's easy enough. We just cast it over. So byte random.range. And then this will be, I believe, 0 to 255. However, we only want this to be about 0 to... Let's make it variable. Let's add in up here in our rural prefabs, or rather just up here, let's say public float random color variation. And for right now, we'll make that equal to 25F, but we'll be able to change that easily enough. So 0 random color variation. And then we'll pass in our other bytes. So that's green, blue, and then for alpha, we'll just say byte 255. Okay. So for our alpha, we just want it to be completely flat. So then commercial color plus random add. I'm assuming we can add these together. We cannot add together color 32. That's exciting. Okay, so... Are we going to need to write our own addition for this? We probably are. Yeah, I think we're going to have to write our own function for adding color 32s. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me pop over here. Private bool, not a bool. What am I talking about? Private color 32. Add colors 32. Color 32A. Color 32B. Okay, so we definitely don't want it to be more than 255. So let's go ahead and say float A. Actually, let's go ahead and stick with bytes. No, let's go ahead and cast it over to float. So float A equals, and we'll go with A, and actually float instead of A, we'll go with float R. Float A dot equals A dot R plus B dot R. Now, is that actually going to automatically work? Hang on, we need to just do add colors 32, and this will be A, and this will be, what am I talking about? This will be commercial color, and this will be random color variation. Okay. What is happening here? We need an additional parenthesis. Okay. Cannot convert from float to vector 32, or to color 32. Right. I guess I'm going to rename this to randomize color 32. So color 32, color, float, amount, bool, can be negative equals true. Okay. So instead of add colors 32, randomize color 32. There we go. And then R would be equal to A plus R. And obviously we don't have an A currently. So color.R, which is currently a byte. And then we're going to say if can be negative. Should we do this individually for each color, or should we do it just automatically? I'm not sure. I'm also going to do byte A equals 255. And we're going to just cast this on over to a byte. There we go. Return new color 32. This will be R, and actually byte R. Nope. Byte R. There we go. Byte G. And I'm going to make that be... Wow, I can't type right now. There we go. No, not game object, just G. Byte B. And finally, A. Now, I know that that's not going to work as is, compiler. You don't have to tell me. So if can be negative, we're going to need to do our random to be float random equals random.range, and this is going to be if you can be negative, negative amount to amount, else we're going to have this be, and we're going to need to declare the float here. Float random. So random equals random.range, negative amount, amount, else random equals random.range from 0 to amount. Okay, so float r equals color.r plus random. And then we're also going to do mathf.clamp color.r plus random. And this is then going to be between 0 and 255. Okay. Float g equals mathf.clamp color.g plus random 0 and 255. So I'm not actually adjusting each one individually right now, as I'm sure you can tell. So there's some room for improvement here. Float b equals mathf.clamp color.b plus random 0f 255f. And let's just go ahead and immediately... Actually, we're casting them down here, so it's fine. We've got ourselves our randomization here. We can also recalculate this if we really wanted to after each one. Like so. That'll be fine. Now we're calculating each one individually. Let's see if that works. Am I calling it? There doesn't seem to be much there. I'm not sure that I'm calling the function, though, up here. Let's see. It's all the way up here, if I can grab this. There we go. So, it only happens in the commercial biome, anyway. So there's that. We'll go ahead and copy this here. Industrial, residential, farmland, forest, and town. So we'll need to do industrial color, and we'll need to do residential color, and farmland color, and forest color. There we go. And town color. There. Now, theoretically, it should work. I hope. Hey, that's a bit more like it. It's a nice little patchwork. Now, it does bear noting that it seems 25 is maybe a little bit generous. That's maybe a little bit too much variation. So let's go ahead and turn that down a little bit. Maybe 10. I don't want things to be straight up different colors. Yeah. That's a bit more like it. Now we can see what's going on to some degree. So we come over here into this industrial area. Yeah. And this commercial down here. That'll do. Maybe bump it up slightly more. Maybe to 15. We'll see how that goes. Okay. That's maybe getting a little into the gray. That's getting pretty colored there, actually. Maybe we should do, instead of doing them independently, maybe we should absolutely have them all moving the same. So that way we're not changing the grays so significantly. Let's see how that feels when we crank it back up to 25. As soon as it's done compiling. There we go. Also, this random add is not being used, apparently. Yep, that's correct. That's not being used anymore. Got rid of that. So, can go ahead and get rid of it. And let's see how that goes. Okay, yeah, I like that a lot. That looks quite good. It's all variants of the the type it has. Yeah, I like that a lot better. That's pretty nice right there. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in here, and next episode, we'll start spawning all of our buildings for the forest. See you all then.